Hey, hey! Welcome to Generation Rise, the podcast with Marcus Bell. Listen, I want to thank you, Rise family, for coming in and checking me out today. The first thing that I want to do today is speak life into you guys. I want to speak life into your situation. I want you to speak life into your situation. I want you all to say, I am great. I am strong. I am tough. I am successful. I am happy. I am joyful. I can overcome any adversity, any obstacle. I am going to have a great day. Making small proclamations like this can make a big difference in your day, big difference in your outlook, a big difference in how your day moves forward. So you are great. If nobody's told you that, you are great. You are exceptional. You are extraordinary. Believe that. Believe that. Believe that. I am amazing. I am an overcomer. I am an overachiever. I don't care how bleak, how sad, whatever your situation is, you can overcome it. There is nothing that you can be brought to that you cannot be brought through, guys. Believe me when I say it. You can do above and above and above anything that you ever thought you can do. You just have to believe it and you have to walk in it. So I want you guys, I want my Rise family to speak life into their situation. Not just today, but every day. Speak life, speak life, speak life. You can do it. You can overcome it. You can get to exactly what it is that you want to have. You just have to fight for it. So this week, I was going through and thinking about what to talk about in this podcast. And it came to my mind a story that broke a few weeks ago about a guy by the name of Steve Nash. Now, Steve Nash a few weeks ago was announced as the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, the NBA team, the Brooklyn Nets. And there's a little controversy, quote unquote, about his hiring because he did not have any head coaching experience before being hired as a head coach. Now, I don't think it's that controversial because he's not the first person that has gotten hired as a head coach of an NBA team without having previous coaching experience. Look up Jason Kidd, look up Derek Fisher. So I'm going to move past that point and I'm going to talk about Steve Nash. Steve Nash had an 18-year NBA career as a point guard. He played with the Dallas Mavericks, the Phoenix Suns. He spent some time with the Lakers. He was a two-time NBA League MVP. He retired in 2015. He was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2018. So he has playing experience. He obviously was a very good player throughout his career. And even after he retired in 2015, he took on a bit of a consulting role with the Golden State Warriors. Not as a coach per se, but he was doing some things behind the scenes, helping with workouts and things of that sort. When I thought about this story, the first thing that came to mind was something that I had written down in my notes that was said by, I believe it was T.D. Jakes, but it could have been said by one of the other people that I listen to in podcasts like Pastor John Gray, Pastor Stephen Furtick, or even my pastor, Apostle Don Mears at Evangel Cathedral. And what I wrote down was, your gift will put you in positions beyond your experience. Your gift will put you in positions beyond your experience. So the argument right now that I've heard against Steve Nash is that he had not been coaching. He did not have the experience as a professional coach. He had not coached in high school, college, or the NBA prior to being hired as the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. But before we even get too far into that, I want to let my family know that there is a distinction between a talent and a gift. A talent is kind of a natural ability. It's something that you are kind of born with. You know, there are talented basketball players, there are talented singers, talented speakers, talented artists. You know, you can have family talents, like the Jacksons are singers and entertainers. The Mannings are quarterbacks and football players. If you look at Eli, Peyton, Archie, they even have a nephew that is killing it as a high school quarterback right now. So they're a talented family when it comes to football. Gifts, in my opinion, are a bit more spiritual. Gifts are a bit more about connections. A gift is more about connecting with other people. You can have the gift to teach. You can have the gift to lead, the gift of wisdom, the gift of knowledge, the gift to serve other people. And your gift is more about you and those that are directly connected to you. So here's how I put it. I'll break it down a little bit more. Your talent is about you. You can be talented and not impact anyone else, realistically. Think about it this way. There are millions of talented athletes in the world. Being a talented athlete is kind of a dime a dozen type of a thing. You can be talented as an athlete, and out of the millions of talented athletes around the world, only a few thousand make it to play in the professional ranks. Only a few hundred establish enough of a platform, money, fame, anything like that to sustain them for the rest of their lives. And less than that are able to make their athletic talent impact people beyond their own athletic pursuits and interests. So your talent is really about you. It's about what it can do for you a lot of times. Now, when you're operating in a gift, your gift gives you the ability to impact, to influence, and change the lives of others. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be a gifted athlete, but I think in terms of being gifted as an athlete, there's something extra about you. We've all seen those people that you see and they inspire you, and you just look at them and you say, they were made to do that. Every athlete that plays in the NFL, that plays in the NBA, that plays in professional sports, whether it's the WNBA, women's soccer, or whatever the highest level is not gifted. A lot of those people are just talented in my position. I believe that we all have talents and we all have gifts, but the reason that many people don't have prolonged success, prosperity, and peace in what they do is because they operate from a place of talent, not from a place of their gifts. Now, I want to warn my Rise family, do not, and I repeat again, do not get stuck in a place of talent. Just because you're talented in something does not mean that that is something that you're supposed to continue to do or do beyond a certain point. You can be a talented singer, but that doesn't mean that you're supposed to be a professional singer. You can be a talented athlete, but that doesn't mean that you're supposed to be a professional athlete. Your purpose and your destiny is tied to your gifts, not necessarily to your talent. So as you're working along and you're developing the talents that you know that you have, be on the lookout for your gift, because sometimes they may or may not be the same. Be careful not to get stuck in talent. Just because you are talented at something does not necessarily mean that you're supposed to do that. Does not necessarily mean that you're supposed to do it beyond a certain point. Sometimes you're given talents that are used to open up the doors for you to manifest your gift and to really connect and reach people. Your purpose and your destiny in life is tied to your gifts, not necessarily to your talents. So as you're working along to develop the talents that you know that you have, be on the lookout for your gift. Your talent and your gifts may or may not be the same. Your talent and your gift are not always in alignment. Let me give you a couple of examples. Willie Moore Jr., who is now a very popular public speaker, he's a gospel radio host, he's an advocate for adoption and foster care, and he's doing a lot of amazing things in the world. He started off as an R&B singer out of St. Louis. He has a talent as a singer, but his gift is a little different. Now, he still does some gospel music and uses his talent, but his gift in terms of speaking and reaching and connecting with people has opened up tremendous doors for him in ways that he never would have imagined. If you research his story, when he became popular through his YouTube clips, he says that the video that went viral, he was about to get kicked out of his home. He was about to get kicked out of his place because he was banking on doing YouTube full time, because he had walked away from music because he was becoming more spiritually inclined and following God and what God had for him. Another example, a guy by the name of Montel Jordan. Now, I know people that are a little older will know this name, and I believe that a lot of younger people will know it too, because he's very popular for a song that he had back in the day called "This Is How We Do It." Now, you guys have probably heard it at some point. This is how we do it. I can't sing. Don't mind that. But he was very popular for that song. He was an R&B singer. He was promoted as kind of a sex symbol R&B singer. And he got tired of that sex symbol label, and he ended up moving into faith. And now he's a pastor in Georgia, and he also does some gospel artist stuff. So he had a talent as a singer, and that pushed him, and he became successful as a singer. But his gift was more in service and being able to lead a flock of people through God and ministering through people. John Urschel was an NFL player who recently retired from the NFL. He was a football player, and now he is a teacher and a PhD candidate in mathematics at MIT. One other person is a guy by the name of Myron Rolle. Now, Myron Rolle is an extraordinary person in and of itself. Myron Rolle was a safety at Florida State University, but he was also a Rhodes Scholar. He studied at Oxford. There's a story about him having his Oxford interview, and he had to fly from the interview to wherever Florida State was playing their game at in the same day. Went to the interview, did the interview, came back and played in a college football game in the same day. Beyond that, he played in the NFL for a couple of years with the Tennessee Titans. And when he was done playing in the NFL, when he retired, he went on to study neurosurgery. He went to medical school at Florida State University, and he's now a neurosurgeon resident at Harvard Medical School. Now, he had a talent to play football, but his gift is in healing people. Yes, he could have had an impact on people playing football, but imagine the impact that he will have moving forward as a neurosurgeon, as a doctor of the brain. The impact that he can have on people's lives through his gift, through his healing hands, so to speak, can be so much more impactful, so much more greater in the world than just him as a talented football player. Now, in my opinion, the best and most impactful people not only have a talent, but they also have the ability to tap in their gifts to connect with people. So the best attorneys not only have the talent to speak and argue, but they have the gift to communicate in such a way to connect with the jury, the judge, or the organization to influence the decisions that they're operating within. The best coaches or educators not only have a talent to retain and understand theories and schemes, but they also tap into gifts of teaching, leadership, knowledge and wisdom to connect with their students and players. So to take this back to Steve Nash, like I said, he had an 18-year career as an NBA point guard. So through his time as an NBA point guard, and I followed him throughout his career, I always heard about how great of a leader he was, how he was able to bring people together, how he was able to bring the best out of his teammates and everything like that. So to me, that shows me that he has some leadership within him. He has some gifts of leadership within him. When you can galvanize a team, when you can bring other men together, that is leadership. But even beyond that, in his time as a consultant with the Golden State Warriors, one of the players on the team was Kevin Durant, who is now one of the foundational blocks of the Brooklyn Nets. And when Steve Nash was hired as the coach of the Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant was ecstatic about it. Kevin Durant spoke highly of his basketball IQ and how he was able to communicate and go through the game of basketball and really teach the game of basketball and teach somebody that has been accomplished in the NBA for years to continue to have him be able to soak up information, to continue to sit under his leadership and sit under his umbrella to a certain extent to try to gain more information and try to pull from him. That shows that Steve Nash had the ability to connect with one of the most premier players in the world. Not just Kevin Durant on that team, but Steph Curry was on that team, Klay Thompson. The whole Golden State crew was a part of his interaction. And it shows that Steve Nash had the ability to connect with those players, and he was able to impart wisdom in them. He was able to impart knowledge and teaching in them, which I believe are all gifts that Steve Nash has, which allowed him to not just be considered for a head coaching job without formal qualifications and experience, but to be qualified in a different way. God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. So when you're called to do something, by God, he will qualify you for whatever position it is, whatever role it is, whatever it is that he wants you to do. If you're called to it, God will make a way to make sure that you get ahead of other people that may have more experience or may have more qualifications or may have this or that, this connection or that connection. God will move you ahead of other people that are not called to do what you're called to do. Now, somebody else that I want to bring into this discussion is a guy by the name of Muhammad Ali. Now, I believe that most people know who Muhammad Ali is, but I think a lot of people get infatuated by the talent that he had. He was an extraordinarily talented fighter, one of the greatest boxing legends of all time, arguably the greatest boxer of all time. And he was extraordinarily talented. I would even say that he was a gifted fighter. He was able to inspire and connect with people through his ability to fight. But what I think gets lost sometime in his legacy was his leadership. And I think he had an extraordinary gift of leadership. So what do we know about leaders? Leaders sacrifice for others. Leaders make tough and bold decisions. Most leaders are willing to look crazy and to take risks based on what it is that they're moving towards. And they view the big picture of things. They don't just take the small view of looking how things impact them, but they oftentimes take a look at the bigger picture of how it impacts others around them. So these are all things that Muhammad Ali encompassed within his character, encompassed within who he was. And I believe that Muhammad Ali embraced his gifts through the door that his talent created. His ability to be the heavyweight champion and to be able to be a great boxer through his talent opened up numerous doors that he probably never would have seen had he not been a talented fighter. So let's talk about his leadership. So leaders go on and they take on the toughest opposition they can find. As a heavyweight champion, Muhammad Ali fought the best heavyweight fighters of his era. I'm talking people like Sonny Liston, Joe Frazier, George Foreman. And no, he didn't win all of those battles, but he did beat them eventually. One of the biggest things that he's known for was the fact that he refused entry into the armed forces during the Vietnam War. Because he chose to stand on his religious beliefs and his morals, he refused to be inducted into the draft, and he lost almost 4 years of his prime to fight. He was not able to get a boxing license. He was not able to fight anywhere in the United States. He was not able to continue to move forward with his boxing career because he was tied up in the Supreme Court in court cases, because he refused entry into the armed forces, because he did not believe in or agree with the Vietnam War. He fought for social justice throughout his career and life. He was a peace ambassador throughout the world. He was big into philanthropy. In his younger years, he gave money to combat hunger across the world. It's estimated that he impacted over 22 million people that were impacted by hunger throughout his life. 22 million people. He focused on youth education. He spoke at HBCUs about the importance of education. He gave money to the United Negro College Fund. Muhammad Ali did so many tremendous things in his boxing career and beyond that impacted people beyond just what he was. Yes, he was a brash and cocky and braggadocious type of a personality, but he also impacted people within his direct connection, his family, but people around the world. They revered this man for all that he was, for all that he stood for. And even after Parkinson's disease and illnesses ravaged his body and he could no longer really speak, he couldn't hold a steady hand, he was a far cry from the young, vibrant person that he had been for a large part of his life. He was still a symbol of strength. He was still a symbol of leadership. His gifts spoke for him when he could no longer speak. His gifts continue to impact people now, even in his death. Let that sink in. His gifts continue to impact people now, even in his death. Even in his death. I think that operating within your gifts is how people get promotions over people that have more years of experience, that have more qualifications, that have more education. When you operate within your gifts, you're able to just move and impact and influence in ways that other people cannot do it. One of the other things that I wrote down was that your gift will put you in front of great men. Now, Muhammad Ali sat in front of presidents, not just in the United States, but he was able to meet with presidents in Africa and around the world. He was able to be in very close quarters with world leaders like Malcolm X and other people around the world. So he was in the company of great men. If you go about your business in the right way, if you develop your gift, if you discover and grow and mature and develop within your gifts, you too will be able to position yourself to be in the company of great men, to be able to be put in a position where you are in a position that is beyond your qualifications. Your gift will put you in positions beyond your experience. Listen, Rise family, I know we all get caught up in our talents, but also realize the importance of your gifts and develop your gifts. As you're developing your talents, as you're putting in all the time and the effort and the energy into what your talents are, recognize what your gifts are. Recognize what things you do that people respond to you are in. How are you able to influence and impact people? Look at those things, and your gift may not be what your talent is. Maybe you need to go left instead of going right because that is where your gift is leading you. Your gift is tied to your destiny. Your gift is tied to what it is that you're supposed to do in life. Work to identify, grow, develop, mature your gift. And I can almost guarantee you that you will be able to find a peace, a joy that you wouldn't have if you're solely just operating in your talent. Listen, Rise family, thank you so much for joining me here again today. I appreciate all the time that you spend with me. I appreciate you for liking, sharing, giving me your feedback of this podcast. Reach out to me in my email if you'd like, bell.riseent@gmail.com. You can connect with me on Twitter @riseent1, Instagram, The Rise Generation, YouTube, Generation Rise. This podcast is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of other podcast hosts. So, like I said, please like, share, comment, send it out to your friends. Thank you so much for joining me here again today. God bless you. I love you. Now go be great.